know me, but I'm Merritt, so I'm with VMware, and I'm a technical account manager here covering accounts in the Southeast. Was a local VMUG leader from 2016 until last year when I joined VMware, and now I'm served on the steering committee with Derek and Ashley Clemens, who are local VMUG leaders. So again, thank you all for being here. I'm going to just take just a few minutes tonight, and I want to talk about VMware Validated Designs. So how many of y'all are familiar, how many of y'all heard or have used the validated designs in the past? So a couple. All right, good. So again, I'm just going to keep this real quick, real high level, and just maybe tell you about something that you know may not know about, and that will save you some time if you look into this in the future. So VMware Validated Designs are a blueprint of a system architecture that you can use in your deployments that is a VMware tested, authorized design. So it's a complete data center level design. It can be implemented in various different ways. We'll talk about some of those possible configuration options on the next slide. But it gives you a consistent, standardized environment, and it can save you a lot of time that you're going to spend architecting your environment. So these are, again, designs that have been tested. Interoperability testing has been completed by VMware, and it's the full SDDC stack. So if you're familiar with the product we've got called vCloud Foundation, actually what vCloud Foundation deploys is the VMware Validated Design in your data center. And it's adaptable to a number of different use cases. So again, what this slide shows is just how all of this works together to give you the benefit from these validated designs. That the interoperability has been tested, so you don't have to worry about the compatibility matrices between does this version of VROPS work with this version of VRA, with this version of Log Insight, with this version of vSphere, vCenter, and so forth. Because if you follow the validated design, it's all been tested and it's guaranteed to work. So you get a fully documented implementation that guides you through step by step of how to deploy this in your data center, which should ease your management task because it's going to be deployed right. And it's also a security, a hardened design. The Validated Design 5.0 was released in January this year. And actually last week we released 5.0.1, which is just a minor revision. But in 5.0, this is our first release that actually has vSphere 6.7 built in. So because with validated designs, we always guarantee an upgrade path. If you follow the validated design, we are never going to box you in to a situation where you don't have an upgrade path to the next version of vSphere in the validated design. So because of that, the previous validated design, version 4.3, was still built on 6.5 update 2. Of course, as y'all know, with if you were on 6.5 update 2, you could not upgrade to 6.7 pre-update 1. So with Validated Design 5.0, you have that upgrade path now. So this is the first one that's built on 6.7. It's built on 6.7 update 1. It's got vSAN 6.7. And you can see all the other versions of the products. It's got VROPS 7.0, which is the latest. And this is pretty much the latest and greatest from VMware. But again, these are all tested and make sure that all of these versions are being together in your data center installed. All right, so this sounds interesting to you, I hope. So how do you get started with this? There are 3 ways that you can actually make use of the validated designs. So the first way is you can use VMware Professional Services. Go to your account team. Hey, we want to deploy a new SDDC or redeploy an existing SDDC environment. We want to follow the validated design. We want a VMware consultant, a consulting architect to come in and help us with this deployment. your account team will gladly sell you it's basically a SKU, a packaged engagement where they will come in and deploy this prescripted validated design into your environment. So that's one way. You can go to any number of VMware authorized partners and work with them and achieve the same thing through a number of our partners that provide professional services. All right, but I have no budget and I still want to use the validated designs. Fantastic. They're available freely on the VMware website as a documentation package, as a bill of materials, and you can download that bill of materials yourself, follow the guidelines, and you can deploy, this is all freely available to you as a full documentation package, and you can deploy the validated design in your environment. So you can pay VMware to do it, you can pay a partner to do it, or you can do it yourself following our documentation that's available. All right, so real quick, in 5.0, which again was released in January, and in 5.0.1, which was released last week, we're now built in vSphere 6.7. We've got support for the latest versions of Microsoft Server 2016 and the latest Ubuntu release. And on the networking side, that recommendation has been bumped up from 10 gig network interfaces to 25 gig mix on the network side. And there's a new product called VMware Cloud Builder, which is essentially a wizard or a guided deployment where you can input a number of parameters and automatically deploy a VMware validated design. Again, that's primarily used for new deployment in a greenfield environment, but that's something if you're setting up a new environment, you can make use of this. So again, it's an updated bill of materials built on 6.7.1, and this just kind of overviews what documentation is available. I'm going to tell you in just a minute where to get it. This documentation map, and I know that's an eye chart at this distance, but if you go to the website, which will be on the next slide, and look at this, there's actually this map as you have it on your 27-inch monitor at your desk. You can actually look at it in some detail. This is going to kind of step you through the process to install this. It's literally a roadmap to deploy this first, then this, then this, then this, and that shows you the interoperability of all this product set. So again, Microsoft Server 2016, SQL Server 2017, and Ubuntu 18 are all now supported. Latest version of VRA, VROP, full package. All right, so here's the takeaway slides. VMware.com/go/DVD, VMware Validated Designs -docs. There's a slide. If you're interested in paying for professional services to do that, there's the address for that. There's also a community, part of the VMTN, VMware community, that you can join, and that link is there. That is a free resource. There's a number, if you have any questions, if you're running problems with your deployment, there's a number of, users just like you guys, just, VMware resources, our professional services folks, vexperts and so forth from around the world, really, that are able to jump in. There's also a Slack channel as well that you can get access to, a number of things. So if you go to that community link, then you can find all of that. Again, you may just want to take a picture of this one and then kind of zoom it in, but there's a number of URLs. This is also going to be on my blog after, which or you can find it on Twitter. So that's miklm.com or at @VMIKLM on Twitter. And I'll make sure that I've got links to these slides posted on there. But these are all the URLs to get all of these resources. We'll try to make these slides available too. So that's essentially the gist of it. I just kind of want to make that talk pretty quick, but just make you aware of the validated designs if you haven't used it. If you've got a project or something where you are going out to deploy a new architecture and you're just not sure where to start, this is a really great place to avoid a lot of the pitfalls we commonly mistake in architecting a new environment and make sure that it's done right by following the validated designs. Any questions or from anybody on the validated design? All right. Something you deploy an environment, is that something you're going to look at chat and see if it's a benefit. Robert says no. More than the validated design.
I never wanted to let you hang on the line. This flag is much better.
Is it validated designs for like vSAN, or is it everything?
So it's the full stack. We recommend vSAN, but the validated design does not require vSAN. So you can use traditional storage as well. So there are some, it will work with what you have, within reason. So it requires hardware that is on the VMware hardware compatibility. So that's the main, but it does not require vSAN. There are guidelines for vSAN. That's the source platform you want to use. But if you use traditional storage as well, then that will also work with the validated. All right. So with that,
I'm basically a secretary.
Yeah, that's Adam. As you can tell from the screen, he's our senior account manager. I'm Derek. I'm a systems engineer covering part of Tennessee, part of Alabama, and then Mississippi as well. So I get to travel a lot. My wife loves that. So this is me. Biggest part about this is I'm a former cohesity customer. I've actually used this stuff. And I wanted to bring up a cool email we got today. I'll hide the company's name to protect the innocent. It said, guys, XYZ company is using Veeam today. They got hit with ransomware. Oh man, I'm kind of straight about now. So they got a big problem. We don't really have that problem with ransomware. So cohesity is primarily a backup structure, but it expands out to do a lot more things. So yeah, I got to bring this into my healthcare organization because I had a project to replace data domain. Anybody heard of data domain? Isn't that cool? And I just didn't want to buy it anymore. It didn't do a lot for me. It wasn't very sexy. It didn't do a lot of things. And my bar brought in cohesity to him. And yes, it could do what data domain does on a lot of steroids. So that's why I liked it, brought it in. So, quick background on the company. Who's heard of Nutanix? Who has Nutanix? No customers here? Gotcha. So there's this really fun, tall, moped Eric, super smart guy. He was a co-founder and CTO of Nutanix. So Nutanix is this thing, somewhere on it. You can start to do data centers, you can have those file shares on, things like that. So you build the file system right, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. So he took that knowledge that he got there and went and brought it to the secondary storage space. So we're not focusing on primary stuff, so not your mission critical applications, we're talking secondary. Our file system way of thinking to secondary storage. So now we have cohesity. After he brought over and did all this, after he had a lot of success at Nutanix, his engineers and an investment community was like, tell me where to sign because you've done this before. I know you're going to do well again. And really the problem he was trying to solve with cohesity was complexity. And that was the thing I was looking at. In my data center, I needed to simplify things. I started with hyperconvergence on the primary workloads. So bringing together the compute, storage, and networking, things like that in your primary workspace. Do you guys have any hyperconvergence today? No hyperconvergence yet? Anyone else any hyperconverged technologies yet? Not yet? Your space? No, not yet? Cool. So we saw complexity, since we're in the secondary space, we saw complexity in a lot of different ways. So backups, long-term archives, file shares, object storage, test and dev environments, analytical environments. There's a lot of key pieces in the secondary storage space. We ended up spending a lot more money on secondary storage than we do on primary storage, even though we really don't think about it too much. Your backup environments, your tape environments, your vendors to manage your tape environments, your vendors to manage your cloud archives, things like that. It's very fragmented. There's a lot of UIs involved there. And there's actually a bunch of different copies of data. Yes, you need a completely separate copy of your production data in your backups. Obviously, like this company we talked about earlier, they had another copy, but it wasn't too segregated from their production environment. And then there's no visibility into that. that data. So if maybe you have 100 terabytes in your production data, and then you probably have copies and copies of that, so your backup data might be 200 terabytes, something like that. You can't really look into that data with any one tool. So these are the problems we're trying to address, right? And then in comes the cloud era, right? That's going to solve everything because you don't have to have servers, you don't have to have networking. Well, you can have networking, but you don't have to deal with people selling hardware to you all the time. So that's going to fix everybody's problem. We can just go home, it's all been done. But really, we found that this is another place to copy all of your data again, and now it's better because we're just charging your credit card. So that's the big difference there. But it didn't really solve anything. There's still a bunch of different systems, and there's copies and copies of the same data. There's no dedupe, there's no compression up there, so it's just a lot of spin there for you. So you really just doubled your data. This is what cohesity is calling buzzword mass data fragmentation there. So this is what we're trying to solve. This is the big picture. So your biggest companies, this is a really, really big issue. Like several $1 million, several $100 million there spent on all these systems that really is just secondary data. So what we do is we try to start really simple. Let's get a platform that can handle all these things. Let's get it on one platform. That's where you start. We start with data protection, right? So what are we using for backups today? What do you know what you guys are using for backup, VM, things like that? Net backup. So 2 applications for VM backups. Why 2? Avamar came in with. So net backup and Avamar. So then they're writing to data domain. Is there any other target storage? Sure, there's some tape. Cool. Silos. Yeah, there you go. And you mentioned you're using to manage services for backups. What else we got? Any other backup vendors that we're using today? What are you guys using?
Data protection.
Okay. And Jared, same thing? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So a bunch of different UIs. Just for some backups here, some backups there. Then there's the dedupe target location, things like that. 4 or 5 different UIs right there just to handle standard VM backups. This is something that should be really easy, right? You shouldn't have to think about this much. So we started with data protection. Scale out file system, handle all backups. Give me the target storage, the backup web UI, all that in one user interface. And it can scale out to be 50 terabytes or 50 petabytes, same UI. Then we're going to start to scale out. Now we're going to take over long-term archives. Get out of the tape business if you want to. Cohesity can still write the tapes if that's just something that helps you sleep better at night. But start to leverage the cloud a little bit to take over those long-term archives. Now we're going to start to scale into file shares. Again, we talked about Nutanix a little bit. When you build the file system right, you can do a lot of really cool things. So now we fix the data protection. Now we're stepping into file shares. So you think about all the different data that you have to just throw on random file shares. In my case, using my security camera footage. That is a lot of data. You got to throw somewhere, right? Throw it on an infinitely similar file platform. You can do that. So we can talk over NFS, SMB, and S3. So that fits into our object storage as well. Now we pull out a lot of different things. So we're connecting this thing to Active Directory. So now we can host like home directories. What other kind of stuff? Maybe user profiles. Start to do corporate file shares, things like that. So you start to see you get out of the business of doing Windows patching for some of those file shares that used to just sit on Windows servers. So we've collapsed a lot of different things so far. Now since we have all of your data, all your VMs are in your backups, can we clone them? Can we start to make test environments directly out of this? And leveraging the dedupe and compression and the copy data management built into Cohesity. So now we're not having to have completely separate storage environments just to have test servers. Because every time you create a production server, you really create like 3 or 4 production servers. So there's your actual web server that you're creating for whatever application. Then there's the test web server and a development web server, all those things. So you really end up with a ton of copies out there. Cohesity is giving you this tool that, yeah, you bought it for backups, now let's use it to clone out VMs, things like that. good so far? Falling asleep? Time for a drink? Got it? Okay. Now since we have all the data there, now we can start to leverage this for an analytical platform. So you got all these file shares, you got all your web servers backed up, your email servers backed up. Can you start to use this as an e-discovery tool? Can you start to search through all this data? We'll get into that in just a little bit. So we've cleaned up the production, like on-prem physical stuff, right? That's where we spend a lot of money. There's a lot of headaches going into keeping all the storage arrays, talking to the host servers, talking to these other storage arrays. Now let's expand that into the cloud. Since we had all that copy data out there, you got to back up those cloud VMs. You got to replicate to a DR site. So maybe that DR site now is in the cloud. So in this case, we cleaned up a whole lot. We still got 2 UIs. Let's give us a single UI to manage all of that. So your cloud infrastructure as well as your on-prem infrastructure. So all those VMs that you backed up on-prem, maybe you got to replicate all or some to the cloud. Let's be able to do that under the same UI. Let's be able to fail over under the same UI. Let's be able to restore those VMs to the cloud under the same UI. Search through those VMs under the same UI. You start to see the power of getting all of this data on the same platform. This is a piece we just came out, ability to run applications on here. Does everybody have a smartphone now? We're all at that area. Nobody brought their flip phone with them tonight, hopefully not. Got it? Okay. You got your smartphone because you can do a lot of cool stuff with it, right? You got a lot of your data on here, your pictures, your videos, some files, things like that. But another cool piece is you can run apps on your phone, right? So you got all of your company data sitting in your backups just waiting for you to do something, right? And in the past, you're just waiting to store that data. So now all the data is sitting in these backups, so it's not sitting on 5 different data domains and 2 exagrids over here. It's sitting on one platform that can scale out to hold all of it. All the data is there. Now it starts to do something. So Cohesity just released an app store. So now you can start to download and install apps directly on the platform. So it's containerized apps running against the data locally. So it's not your app is over here on this subnet, it's got to reach over here to this storage array. There's some latency there. The apps and the data are right in the same place. So now we're able to do search, pretty soon e-discovery, things like that, directly on the platform. So you start to see the power of putting your data in a single location. So you can start to run application units. So we've talked about this big global problem. Let's narrow it down because not everybody has massive cloud deployments and massive multiple data center deployments, right? You guys for sure do. So we're going to bring it down to y'all's level. So I'm going to use very simple terms for the table up front. So we got VMware stuff, we got some storage, some NAS, some databases up there. Everybody's got that, right? We're talking about data protection first. That's where we start in the marketplace. Again, we span out to do a lot of other things. So in a simple environment, you got at least some kind of media servers, some target storage, some master servers. When you have to add more pieces of that target storage, yeah, there's maybe like smart dedupe devices, but they don't talk to each other. So if you got 20 VMs backed up over here, 30 VMs backed up over here, there's no dedupe happening across those things. There's more copies of that same data. So in the case, maybe these are VM servers, maybe these are net backup servers. So there's probably some media agents, some pushing and pulling data in different places, writing out to a tape library. Is anybody still working with tapes these days? I'm only about a year off of tape, so I know there's still a lot of folks that still have a lot of tapes. Do you guys have any? So sometimes it makes you sleep better at night. You know, nobody can touch that data on that tape, probably not even ourselves when it comes with it down to. So we're talking about the legacy data center. Sometimes we start to put a big toe into the cloud there a little bit. So some kind of cloud gateway to get some of our data out there. Then in the case of Cohesity use cases, there's other systems that are maybe Windows file servers running our file and object storage, maybe some NetApp or what have you. Probably your old SAN is just running your test and dev environment. And then some analytical more VMs sitting out there on another stand. So this is a lot of different UIs to manage what should be pretty simple in a data center, right? Just backing up stuff. So 5 or 6 different UIs. Where cohesity can come in a very, very simple. We are a disruptive technology, but we come in a very non-disruptive way. So day one, if you want to keep using that backup, if you want to keep using Veeam or what have you, just leverage cohesity as your target storage. So day one, super simple to get dedupe compression and a scale-out file system. So we're never going to sell you a product that's like, oh, y'all bought the 4500 series model. Well, you should have got the bigger one because now you're out of space. No, you can scale out as many nodes as you want for any platform job cohesity. So a scale-out platform. If that's all we did, take it to the bank. That's a great product. People make a living on those products alone. They build businesses off of that. But now, since we have this platform, let's do more with it other than just dedupe the compression. So now let's reach out to VMware. Let's register VMware as a source. Now let's back up all those VMs. Let's register Pure Storage as a source. Now let's back up VMs leveraging the storage snapshot. Now we back those up. We can start to clone things like that. So we got this platform. Yeah, we deduped and compressed everything. We now backed up all our VMs and physical servers. What else can we do? So now we're going to start, again, in my case, security camera footage. My crazy marketing team, they had about 10 terabytes of random videos they got to store out there, uncompressed videos. Give us some, really cheap way to save these things. Okay, well, storage isn't free, so I'm going to throw it over here where I can at least manage it under a single UI, things like that. We get all these requests to store all this data. Maybe some compliance department came and said, hey, I got to store this data for 5 years. Keep it there. Prove to me that nobody's touched that data. Give me some kind of reports around that. Again, the use case that I had, we do that with release. Moving over, bring on test and dev workloads. Talked about you back up all these VMs. Let's be able to clone them out. So being able to clone out one VM, anybody can do that. Can you clone out 100 VMs in a single workflow? We see you can do that. It's pretty slick. So in the case of that email that I got earlier, like, hey, they got hit by ransomware and attacked their backups too, we wouldn't have that problem. We would just restore all of the VMs in a single workflow, bring them up literally within just a few minutes. And since cohesity is storage, we can bring up VMs directly on us. We're going to register them with VMware, and then we are the storage. So boom, all your VMs are available. As long as it takes a Windows VM or a Linux VM to boot up, that's about how long it takes you to get those VMs back. And then we're going to restore them after they've booted up, your users are pinging them, you're logging into them, accessing web applications, then that vMotion job is going to kick off and run it behind the scenes while they're using the VMs. And then analytical workloads. So we got all the data already in your backups. Let's use it, let's run some scans against it, let's search for files, let's do some e-discovery, things like that. What's next? Some differentiators. Scalability, just being able to, day one on a lot of platforms, that's the best performance you're ever going to get. With cohesity, we don't have like a controller node. We're not bound by anything like that. As you add more nodes to the cluster, you're getting more networking, more processing, more storage. So your performance continues to get better as you add more nodes to a cluster. So in the case of you guys, like your really small environment, as you add more nodes, your performance is going to get better, so that shows that it doesn't matter what model you get into. We're adding all those pieces as we go. That's hyper-convergence at its finest. I like to show this one to really drive it home. There's a lot of our customers, they ask for backups, and it's like we remind them, hey, this platform can do a lot more. So doing things like your home directories. So those, for you guys, is that just saved on like Windows servers today? User home drives or no, that's beneath me. I don't deal with that anymore. In my case, that was on Windows servers. That's your expertise?
Well, we have a component of it.
Yeah.
We use NetApp.
So it's NetApp. Cool. So that's one. You mentioned you have NetApp for that use case and some other file sharing use cases. That's kind of one of the things that cohesity was built to do. So building out a platform to handle those use cases. So not having to have a separate, environment just to do certain, file sharing workloads. So we have a lot of opportunities up in Nashville right now where we're targeting just those types of things. Any other? I'm sorry?
Why are you secondary?
So there's certain workloads. Great. He asked, why are we secondary storage? Great question. There's certain workloads that you would not put on a scale-out platform like this. You wouldn't host directly on like your primary database because we're talking over the network. We're not direct attached client or connectivity, things like that. So there's going to be your standard latency that there's certain applications like home directories, file shares, things like that. Users aren't ever going to know. There'll be like an application reset that the user won't actually know that something happened. Test and dev servers, if it's milliseconds later than your standard production VMs, it's a test and dev workload. It's not going to get right. So that we're targeting secondary storage because he needed to step away from what he'd already done in the primary storage space. So to your question, we're not competing with like NetApp's all flash arrays or Isilon all flash arrays like that. So we're playing secondary storage for things that are just all that ever-growing area of data that doesn't have a really strict SLAs performance. Again, going along with the file sharing platform. In the case of the email I got earlier, literally like 2 hours ago when we were on our way here, if they were using us to write theme to write to cohesity as the target storage, we would be able to protect that theme data. So we have our own snapshots against that with our immutable file system. So that was Veeam backups would still be protected. We would just restore that location and then Veeam could talk to it again. So that really would have been a really bad day for those guys. It would still be a lot of pain, but they was able to restore all their production environments with their backups and reset. Global deduplication. So again, if we have 5 terabytes or 5 petabytes, we're going to dedupe across all of that. So it's not like you have to have multiple clusters in a data set. I'll start to get through some of this because I would like another beer. Talking about instant master stores. So in the case of what we talked about earlier with the Veeam environment, most backup environments can bring up a VM at a time. That's awesome if you want to test out a VM restore. But what about a real world scenario where I need to restore 10 VMs or 1,500 VMs, 3,000? Should I keep going? 5,000 VMs? Okay.
How long would it take?
5,000 VMs, so you would have a cluster of probably 100 nodes, I'm sure, something like that. So we're spreading that workload across all of these nodes. So it's not like we're pulling this from a single storage array. It's 100 nodes, everybody pulling together to do this work. So honestly, sub 5 minutes to bring all those up. Now in the cohesity UI, that backup job's still going to be running for hours. But the users are actually able to use that data within just a few minutes. Because we are the storage, right? So the main part of restoring data, the part that takes the longest, is moving it back from the backups all the way back to production, right? You gotta move, in your case, petabytes of data back to the primary storage. With Cohesity, we're the storage. We've already got the data. We just gotta flip the light switch on, present it, register a new VM back to vCenter, and VM's there, cool, power it on. It's running across the network, so there may be a performance hit, depends on what your infrastructure looks like today, because those VMs are... Somebody's paying attention in here, I'll tell you that.
Only thing I heard the whole presentation.
We're coming back for another one, Derek, I'll tell you that. That was really funny. So yeah, so we are the storage. We've already got the data. So we're going. The first thing we're going to do when we have to register, we have to restore. Like we said, 5,000 VMs. So we're going to have a ton of nodes in this cluster. We're going to hold all that data. First thing we're going to do is we're going to vCenter. You're going to see a new data store being presented. It's going to be called cohesity dash whatever. So that data store is an NFS kind of data store from Cohesity. The next thing you're going to see is you're going to see all these VMs starting to be registered in vCenter. So all these new VMs, if you wanted to give them the same name, have them overwritten if you want to, or give them a server name dash restore, we're going to start to register all those VMs. Then we're going to start to power them up one at a time. So you can register a certain amount with a host, and another certain amount with another host, and with another host. I'm sure you guys probably got like clusters of 100 hosts together or something like that. We're going to start to register and power on all those VMs. And as they're powering on, how long does it take the Windows and Linux VM to power up? A few minutes, 2 to 3, something like that. So those are booting up. And the data is still sitting on cohesity. So they're booting up, and once they're booted up, it starts pinging. So you can log into those things. And after they're all booted up, you can see that vMotion job kicking off. Or if you told it not to vMotion, just to live on cohesity immediately, it'll just stay on cohesity until you go to manually kick off the vMotion job. It's pretty cool to see. It really is. But this is the difference in us. So we talked about we already own the data. We don't have to move it anywhere. We also have our own patented snapshots technology. So we're not having to just compile a bunch of chains back together. We're never more than 2 hops away from the original data. Just talking about a single platform. So in the middle there you see your data center. We can run on several different server types. So we have our own cohesity branded. It looks really slick. It's got a cool little bezel on it. We can run on that. We can also run on your HPE servers, your Cisco servers, your Dell servers, coming out with even more stuff on Ovo servers, things like that we can run on. We're a software solution. There's nothing magic about the hardware underneath it. You can also run a cohesity cluster in the cloud. We talked about that a little bit earlier, as well as a virtual edition and maybe like your remote sites, things like that. Cool. I made it through and kept my voice. We got any questions? For Adam? Adam's great at questions.
Linux space?
Sorry?
Linux space, we always like this?
Yeah, it's CentOS underneath the covers. So it's got our own code baked into a CentOS operating system.
Or any S3 compatible storage, or just any S3?
So, yeah, so we are. So we're talking, so we are actually S3 storage. So if you want to host things on us and just use web applications that talk to us over S3, we can do that. Or we can archive out in 2 ways. So just S3 protocol or the NFS protocol. So anything that can talk over S3, we can write out to it. So you think about maybe in the backup use case, I want to back up and keep everything for maybe 30 days on the cohesity box. After that, I want to archive out to some S3 storage for weekly, monthly, yearly backups out there. Any other questions? Awesome. Thunderous round of applause. Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun. Add me on LinkedIn, and Adam will bring me some t-shirts. There you go.
Great job. You do a great job with them there, right?
Yeah,
Well, that's presentations, we got some cool little giveaways. I think we're supposed to stuff. I got a couple little things here we can do. I give everybody like a little round ticket, and we got discount. Spin off and stuff like that. So, y'all have any questions, anything, or appreciate y'all coming out. Meet up. Oh.